Hey, Justin, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Welcome. We're
Thank you very much.
happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful to be here.
I'll do it by phone. You know. All right, Vice Chair was having some challenges connecting, so I just sent her the link. We'll see if she can't try to get through that way.
We need better internet service.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm on a very teeny tiny phone instead of on the computer, but I'll try to make it work.
We can see you and we can hear you. If we're just going to give folks another minute or so to click in. We're a little slow on the sign in today.
Okay. Is it possible to repeat the logon so I can get on the computer instead of on the phone?
Just copy it to your URL.
Well, I'm using my phone as my problem, and it's okay. I'll just keep using.
Oh,
it.
I'll email you the link.
Thank you, Ron. It's just too hard on a phone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go get your food. No.
We love Zoom, and then we love Zoom when it works, right?
Right?
I know. My internet is blocked, so I'll sign on the computer, but I'll keep this on with no, just in case, because I have it again. It's been going in and out today.
Jay, how are we doing on quorum?
Okay, I'm about to log off of the phone, Ron, and go in through the computer.
Sounds good.
Okay.
There's Glenn.
I think we're good on quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. 5:34. Whoops. Sorry, I had to shut my phone off. Welcome, everyone. It's 5:34, Monday, April 2nd. This is the Human Rights Commission meeting for the City of Palm Springs, Monday, April 12th, 2021. First off is roll call. Jay?
Okay. Commissioner Andrade,
Present.
Commissioner Flood,
Present.
Commissioner Ramaran,
Present.
Commissioner Shepard, Vice Chair Chappelle,
Present.
Chair DeHart.
Present.
Yes, we have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, excellent. Well, first item is the mission statement. Who would like to just read the first paragraph of the mission statement today? Who have we not had for a while? Edwin, thank you for volunteering. Do you have it there in front of you? All right, Denise, how about we have you read the mission statement for us?
Sure. The mission of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission is to promote and protect the diversity of our community and to improve human relations through education and community awareness.
Excellent, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Jay, you noticed that Commissioner Shepard has joined us.
Yes, I did. Thank
So
you.
we've got a full house, right?
Correct.
Okay, now we're on to item 5 on the agenda, which is public comment. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Human Rights Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. 3 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Although the commission values all comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Commissioners will not enter into a discussion with the speakers, but during commission comments may refer to the matter to staff for report and recommendations at a future commission meeting. Jay, do we have folks submitted for public comment?
I did not receive any requests, Mr. Chair. However, as you can see, there are a number of visitors.
And we're pleased to have with us today our student.
All right, so if folks would like to raise their hand, Jay, do you see any hands?
Excellent. Well, tonight we
Yeah,
are
Jenny has her hand up.
final
Who's that?
stages of
Jenny Fote.
Jenny Fote. Jenny, you've got 3 minutes, Jenny Fote, for public comment.
finalize the decision.
Jenny is muted.
Okay, do I do that now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to first of all thank the Human Rights Commission for taking on the important issue of racism in our city history and recognizing that our past is not all glamour and Hollywood stories. So since moving to Palm Springs in the 90s, I had always admired the incredible mid-century architecture of our beautiful city hall. As a city council member, I would wonder every time I was at City Hall why there was a statue of a cowboy marring the front view of this iconic building. I read about the history of the period that Mayor Frank Bogart led our city, and I was horrified. Yes, our city grew from the playground of the stars during his tenure, but the horrors that were perpetrated on the mostly minority working poor of our city to get us there were unfathomable. Under Bogart's leadership, hundreds of families lost everything as he and the city councils oversaw the burning of their homes and their possessions to, quote, clear out the squalor, which was his term for the justifying the burning of Section 14. Compensation, help with relocation, or any other minor assistance, much less an apology, was never provided to the families as they watched their homes and personal belongings go up in flames. As a city council member, I had the opportunity to request that the statue be moved. That request was sent to the Public Art Commission where it died. because of what seems to be finally an awareness of the racism that has existed since the inception of our country, people are looking at history in a different light. It is also well documented that the act of burning Section 14 was so horrendous that it triggered an Attorney General report and a federal investigation. Both of those investigations concluded that, among other things, it was an egregious act of racism. It's time to remove the symbol of hate from in front of the People's Building. It will not make up for all the pain and harm that was caused to many of the families that still live in Palm Springs, nor will it erase the racism that extended then and still permeates our present. But what it will acknowledge is that we as a city recognize the racism and we recognize the pain and are willing to act upon it. Bogart was not the only one responsible for the horrendous acts of that time, but he was in charge and is the only one with a statue in front of City Hall. The city can never give back what was taken from the residents of Section 14, nor compensate them for all that they have lost. We most importantly can never give back their dignity, their homes, or their possessions. But by acknowledging these wrongs, we in some small way protect the future from these atrocities from ever being perpetrated again. So I really think that the resolution you're about to discuss is well written and includes many of the parts of history that are covered by this part of our terrible time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And Janelle has her hand up and put in chat that she would like to speak. Janelle Hunt.
Mr. Chair, if we could also ask everyone to please mute yourselves. We're getting feedback here as our speakers are making their comments. And Susan Smith is also in the queue. Thank you.
Janelle, you're on. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Janelle Hunt. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background for those of you who are joining us here this evening, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. However, you know, my family, there's a lot of families within the Desert Highland and Gateway Estates area who came from Texas, and yes, they came from Texas and migrated, and they moved to Section 14. On Section 14, a lot of their homes or personal properties or belongings were ripped away, with some with no prior knowledge. You know, to come home, I want you to think about, if you were to come home one day and not see your house standing there, what would you do? What would you do? You're going to be angry, you're going to be sad, you're going to be hurt, and not to mention people had kids that were affected by it. And then within the Attorney General report, once they involved the Attorney General, it was cited that Bogart said they were poor Blacks. He added that they come from Texas or wherever, and they settled in Section 14 Indian land, where they could live rent-free. Some of the hotels in the center of the town thought it was a bad image for the center of Palm Springs. Without any regard, houses were just demolished. People had to uproot and go wherever they could. Some were able to go to Crosley Tracks. Some were able to go to India. My granny was one of the people that was able to buy a house during that process. I moved to the old side of the desert, or the opposite side of the Desert Highland Estates area. But how can the city, if you say you are here for all people, that includes my ancestors, my family members that were uprooted from Section 14. That's a whole neighborhood out here that you're saying, basically you're saying, you know what, we have no regard for whatever happened to your family by letting that statue stay there. Move it someplace else. But if that is a city building, and you're telling us that is a representation of all people feeling like they're welcome, no, it's not. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Janelle. Appreciate that. And next we've got Susan Smith with the hand up.
Hello, citizens. I come to present a view for or in favor of Frank Bogart, his family, tribal members who oppose this cancel culture movement. It's our mayor and city council or former council who spin the narrative once again. We all know that several hundred whites leased on Section 14 with substantially fewer squatters of color. This is not a human rights situation. The tribe was benevolent to allow essentially squatters to live and work out of Section 14. Frank Bogart represented one Indian, Pete Siva, for a very short period of time until Pete was of age and stood on his own as his own conservator. His widow, Bernadine Siva, has spoken to this fact, and she is absolutely against cancel culture, where the city leads wrongful conduct to take this Bogart memorial away. It's time to stop this absurdity. Our city leads have duty to focus on many other situations. For example, under their example of this absurdity is human rights issue, why keep allowing homeless to rogue downtown, do drugs there or in our parks? Why allow abandoned building projects? Why allow parolees released in our downtown areas who end up night crawling to steal, trespass, break into cars? Why not see to hiring more police officers that we need? Focus on issues needed, situations to protect health and safety of citizenry, not political rhetoric based on a few absurd squeaking wheel cancel culturists. Again, this needs to stop. Frank Bogart was a pioneer of Palm Springs. He was here in the stagecoach era, greeting and welcoming the Kaufman family and all of the early pioneers. He was helpful to the tribe, and he was helpful to all citizens of every color, black, white, yellow, and red. I mean, again, it's absurd. You're taking away our culture of Palm Springs. We need not cancel our pioneers. We need to respect them and to allow them to remain. And to me, it's just a plot for our current mayor to take down his statue, to put up her own as some sort of a landmark culturist who is LGBTIQ, the first woman mayor of Palm Springs. It's gotten so absurd. And it's time to just put this to rest and really focus on improving our city and getting things accomplished that need to be addressed. And I appreciate your just filing this matter and letting it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan Smith. We appreciate your comments. And I see a hand up with Jody Diaz.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Human Rights Commission. Thank you for having this forum for us to speak on. My name is Jody Diaz. I am a almost 30-year resident of Palm Springs. And since coming here and being involved in numerous community activities and learning the history of Palm Springs from both sides, I'm here to speak on the same topic that's been spoken on. I feel that, just as other people have stated, when I first came here to Palm Springs, I wondered, who is this cowboy in front of City Hall? Like, what is this about? And now having spent all of this time here, and like I said, being highly involved in the community and community activities, come to find out the history. And it's not absurd, it's real history. It's in the Smithsonian, Section 14, and what was done to families here in Palm Springs. And I feel that to apologize to certain groups of people is great, but that's not putting your money where your mouth is. Apologies are just apologies. I feel that the removal of that statue would show and express to all of the communities, and especially our minority communities, that we will not tolerate racism as a city of any kind. Sexism, racism, none of it should be tolerated here in Palm Springs. And so I just wanted to really urge the commission to vote in favor of removal. You can honor him in other ways, but I don't feel that I feel that taking down that statue would really set a precedence and express to the city and the community at large what we stand for here in Palm Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody Diaz. I saw Sue Lefebvre have a hand up. Sue, do you no longer have your hand up? Okay, we will go to,
I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, that wasn't a hand, that was just a, reaction to something that I've heard,
oh,
being in Palm Springs as long as I have, not the 90s, not the 80s, not the 70s, but the 60s. And I would encourage all of you to look at the history, And thank you. Thank you, Susan, for your very intuitive and heartfelt, caring expose to this city council. I know you'll end up doing the right thing. Thank you.
thank you. Tom, before you, I see Lily Hanner has a hand up. Then we'll go to Tom.
Hi. So because I'm okay, so I'm a freshman student in high school, so I don't know too much of extensive research on the history of the city, even though I've lived here my whole life. But I did do a lot of research on Section 14 when I was in about the 6th grade. And obviously it is a terrible thing that happened to those people that live there. And I am a kind of person that likes to stay in the middle of situations or in the middle of conflicts, not really on sides. And I'm sure there are many people in this call and in the city that think that that statue needs to be removed. And obviously there are going to be a lot of people in the city who also think that it should stay there, and that, as Susan said, the cancel culture of it shouldn't be worked upon. But personally, I feel that I just wanted to put the idea of maybe a sort of compromise of, instead of exactly completely getting rid of the statue, maybe moving it to a more ideal spot in the city, maybe somewhere that would make more sense for it to be in, whether it pertains to the history of that man better. Because since there is obviously dark history behind that person, behind him, I feel it would be a lot easier to maybe not put so much public light on it as in front of the city hall, but more so just move it to a place that way he could still be recognized, and the history that he brought to our city is still understood and brought to the attention of our citizens, but not necessarily completely hidden to the point where nobody learns it at all. But that's I just wanted to throw it in. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily Hanner. And Tom, I don't have a last name for you, but I saw your hand.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tom Kiley, and I was born in the El Mirador Hotel and have lived my whole life here. My family's been here since 1911. And it's interesting to hear folks talk about their long history of Palm Springs, having been here 20 or 15 years. I bring to you tonight a perspective of someone who lived through that era, who knew that section very well, who was at that section, walked those grounds at least once a week, all through my growing up years. It's a little bit disturbing to us that those of us who have a good knowledge, a firsthand knowledge of what actually happened, have sort of been dismissed in this whole process. Tracy Conrad, who is the president of the Palm Springs Historical Society, wrote a very, very good letter to City Council several months ago, and urging the council to carefully look at the true history of that area, offered the resources of the Historical Society, not only the archives, but of those members of the society which represent Native Americans, Blacks, Hispanics, and those of all races and genders that have been in this city, most of whom have been here all their lives. We never heard a response to that letter. And here you are tonight contemplating an action without hearing both sides of the story. This is a very, very important decision that you're about to embark on. And I don't know how one makes a decision like that, having not heard all the facts. Having done this in a vacuum, I would encourage you to reach out to the community, particularly those of us who have been here and who can share real life stories of the reservation and of life in Palm Springs, to give you the actual other side of the story, if you wish. That wasn't possible when the quote unquote Smithsonian exhibit was done. It was a one-sided exhibit that, like this decision, was made in a vacuum without the input of those people that were actually there. It was based primarily on a 15-minute visit by the Attorney General of the state of California, 15 minutes. So I would urge you, if you really want to do your job and you want to serve your community well, there's no rush on this. Take your time, engage the Palm Springs Historical Society, accept their offer to sit with them and to see their archives and to review the actual data of what happened, who was there, what happened. The nonsense that people left for the day and came home to their house burned down and their belongings gone needs to stop. You need to know what the real facts are. You really need to know what that whole process was, including some residents who had 3 years to relocate and chose not to. So again, I want to ask you, you all have a perception that you think you know the history, you think you know what the situation is, but I will tell you that there's a completely different side that needs to be also heard, and that you need and have available to you the resources of things like the Historical Society and pioneer members of your community who would love to tell you their perspective and hopefully get you to understand what the truth of this whole situation is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom Kiley. Next, we've got David Weiner.
Hey, sorry about that. Hello, commissioners and everybody in this room, some city council people that I know, past city council people. You guys, I'm speaking extemporaneously off the cuff because it's been a crazy spring for me, but I wanted to address some of the comments that have been made. And, for all the people that are talking about cancel culture, what a great guy Frank was, things like that. None of us are saying that he doesn't have certain aspects that of his time that were good for certain parts of this community. But what we are saying is we also have a lot of documentation from articles at the time in the Desert Sun, from articles more, a little bit after in the LA Times and USA Today, from the California Attorney General's report. And I don't care if the representative from the AG's office spent 15 minutes here or 15 weeks here. He still had a chance to sit and talk to people and see what happened. We have people that are affected by these policies in our community. One of them, Ms. Cora just passed away. And her family is still involved, active, and had been relocated from Section 14. We're not trying to cancel out the history. We're just, I'm saying, I think the people that worked on this before me, because I am not the first person to work on this idea. A lot of people put in a lot of effort and time. And Jenny, thank you so much, because you got this ball rolling before I even knew about it. We're saying for somebody that helped to shape policies that evicted people from their homes or might have subject them to, being forced to the outskirts of town, should that person who caused so much trauma and so much grief be celebrated by a statue with the utmost, the highest place of respect in our town right in front of City Hall? Move the statue, I think is what we're saying, and have a historical display about what happened in Section 14 and why we, as the citizens of Palm Springs, are really wanting that history to get out, both as far as educating people about what happened, to counter potential racism, and to, as our own way, apologize for what has happened by people that lived in this town before us. We owe an apology to the citizens that were uprooted and relocated. And I think part of that apology includes moving this statue to a different part of town. And I'm sorry for my puppy. I'm going to go mute right now because she's very talkative. I think she has her own ideas in favor of moving the statue.
All right, David Weiner, thank you very much. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Jay? Oh, I see Doug Evans waving his hand. Doug, we will go to you. After you unmute, you've got 3 minutes. There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm done. No. My name's Doug Evans, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, council member, Chief Reyes. I had the honor and privilege of working for the city of Palm Springs for 26 years. I came to the city in 1979 as a young planner, recent graduate, Cal State Long Beach, did neighborhood surveys in all neighborhoods of Long Beach. I did my homework when I first got here because of some of the things people talked about. I read everything available at City Hall. I read virtually every archived newspaper article because I, as a young person that had values, wanted to make sure I was in the right town. And I read everything and I got to talk to people. I got to talk to Frank Bogart. I got to talk to Viola Ortner. While I don't have the history of Mr. Tom Kiley, I did have a perspective of what was going on in the community. Mr. Bogart has been called a lot of things over the past several years. Most of them are not true. He's been called a racist in a number of different ways. And if you look at his life, if you look at who he's been married to, his family, who his friends were, who his friends were when Section 14 was being discussed. We all think that Section 14 was handled by one person. And that's what we've kind of heard today. Section 14 occurred over a 10-year period. It had multiple mayors, multiple city council members, more importantly, multiple tribal council members and tribal chairmen. The tribe came to the city and asked for help. That's how the legacy of Section 14 happened. They could not get help from the federal government, from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, from the state of California, or any other agency, and they asked the city to help them with a challenge that they had with regards to the use of Indian land in Section 14. So when you put it in historical context, one, it happened over a 10-year period. People were given notices. It wasn't a surprise. Actually, Mayor Bogart at the time asked for stays of demolition permits so people would have more time. He worked closely with Lawrence Crosley, who was a conservator of Indian land, just as Frank Bogart was, to try to come up with ways to create housing. The city didn't have redevelopment tools. It didn't have state monies for affordable housing. Back then, there was no help. The tribe couldn't get help.
Mr. Chair, 3 minutes has elapsed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I am disappointed that there's been reference to a resolution, and that's not in the agenda packet. There's just newspaper articles and something about tobacco and cannabis is attached to the agenda. I can't give you meaningful comment because that information is not made available to the public. I apologize for the extra time. Thank you very much. You have a difficult decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug Evans. I don't see any other hands up. So Jay, if you don't see any with that,
Does Susan Smith have a comment? The hand is up, but I'm not sure if.
Susan Smith.
Yes,
Susan
yes, I
Smith-
do. I meant to say that,
Susan already spoke. Susan,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but you have one opportunity to speak during our public comment.
I don't think I fulfilled my 3 minutes, however. So I'd like to just say one thing, that when my family bought a home in Palm Springs on Via Miralesta, a block from the Desert Regional Hospital, it was 1957. I was 10 years old. And I remember Section 14. I had schoolmates who lived on Section 14. I have schoolmates who would come forward and like to see the city. We can hold a meeting at the convention center in a month or two out, and I will invite everyone all the kids, all the families who lived on Section 14 that I can round up and let them speak about what happened. And Doug is correct, and Tom is correct, and we have many other longtime citizens like myself who are witness to what actually happened. And again, this is all rhetoric, it's all political spin, and we really need to get to the bottom of this and maybe correct history once and for all, correct the publications that have incorrectly been spun, and we need to make this right. But removing.
Susan, your time is up. We
Okay,
appreciate your
thank you.
comments.
Thank you.
Any other first-time folks who would like to make comments during public comments? Jay, I don't see any other new people. So with that, we will close public comments for our meeting today and move on to item 6.
I do have a question though. If she was able to speak again, is that policy if my hand is raised again?
Janelle, if you have like a 1-minute comment that you would like to make, Susan Smith was correct. She didn't use the full 3 minutes when she was on the first time, so we extended that courtesy, and would do the same for you if you've got a minute comment that you would like to make quickly.
Appreciate it. You know, people talk about that this is what's written down in books or newspapers, articles, and everything, but there are firsthand accounts that I listened to from my granny, Claudia Crawford. Todd Kiley, I do know you know her. You knew her because she worked for you. But firsthand accounts of numbers of family members that lived on Section 14. It was not anything that was just written it down according to Attorney General report. These are firsthand accounts, stories, memories that were shared. Not one time, not 2 times, but every opportunity where it came about. So I have tons of stories, yes, that my granny shared. So this, I mean, for you to sit there and say that families, yes, this is what took place, yes, and we know that it wasn't just Frank Bogart's doing, but we have a man, we have a statue of a man that's a symbol of who City of Palm Springs is. That's not right. He didn't represent everyone.
Thank you, Janelle. We appreciate the comments that you brought forward. With that, public comments are closed and we move on to item 6, the chair comments. And in place of my comments today, I'm calling on Commissioner Andrade to share a few words on the passing of our Commissioner Jim Gross.
Thank you, Ron. It's with sadness and deep respect that the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission acknowledges the passing of a former commissioner, friend, and upstanding member of our community. Jim Gross lost his battle with stomach cancer on April the 1st. He was born just up the road in Redlands, attending local schools and later earning a bachelor's and master's degree in theater arts from USC. While Jim's professional career was notable, it was his commitment to community service that set him apart. He gave selflessly of his time and talents. He was recognized by San Francisco and Los Angeles counties for his many contributions. Recently, he served as chair of the 1PS organization, bringing together a consortium of neighborhoods in the Palm Springs. Jim practiced Buddhism for 45 years, and he was especially proud of his time as a volunteer Dharma teacher at Ironwood State Prison, where he changed many, many lives for the better. His wishes were that no formal ceremonies be held, but if anyone wishes to donate in his memory, the Well in the Desert and the Damodina Meditation Center in Joshua Tree were two organizations dear to Jim's heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrade. I would also like to just calm the nerves of the rest of our commissioners about the vacant seats on the commission. We do have two new commissioners joining us, we believe, starting July 1, if not sooner. So we're excited to almost have a full house, and we're going to be talking about another member when the youth committee gives us an update today. So now we are moving into item 7, and specifically 7AA. And this is an item out of committee, and it is an opportunity for us to discuss and bring forward the subject that this body first addressed 55 years ago. This isn't an overnight conversation. This is a conversation that started 55 years ago. The original body, the Human Relations Commission, was led by Rabbi Hurwitz, and the conversation started with civic leaders, and it was the first item of action for the Human Relations Commission in 1966. This occurred about 8 months after Frank Bogart resigned as mayor of Palm Springs. The conversation today is going to center on the monument to Frank Bogart. It was installed on the Palm Springs City Hall lawn on March 31st, 1990. And it was intended, and it did honor and does honor and recognize decades of service to the community. It's also widely perceived as an offensive and painful public reminder of a legacy of urban renewal that banished the vast majority of people of color from the city limits, and the present realities of systemic racism that were born out of the civic leadership in our community from 1958 to 1966 specifically. So we will read the entire resolution for discussion today. But before we can get to that point, the executive committee is comprised of Vice Chair Chappell, Commissioner Shepard, and myself, Chair DeHart. We bring this motion out of committee to discuss a proposed resolution on the Frank Bogart Monument. May I have a second? Oh, I can't see.
A second.
Commissioner Flood seconds. All in favor of bringing the item to the commission for discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Abstention? I think that makes it a unanimous vote, Jay.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, so before we read the discussion or read the draft resolution, I would specifically like to ask the commissioners if they have any comments on the item before us prior to us reading the full draft proposal. With none right now, I'm inviting Jeff Coors, who's our guest to today's meeting, to give us a few comments to start our conversation off. So Councilmember Coors, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Chairman DeHart and commissioners, and thank you for that warm remembrance of Jim Gross. He was a true mensch, as my people would say, and will sorely be missed. So I really want to first acknowledge former Councilmember Fote and Claire Lucas, who, along with Chairman DeHart and myself, have done a great deal of research. There are over 20 footnotes in this resolution in 3 pages, so everything would be well documented. I also want to thank the commission last month for us working together on the apology and now working together on this, and invite the commission to join a special meeting that Councilmember Garner and I requested on May 20th at 5:30, a Thursday night, to focus entirely on Section 14, to do a joint presentation on the history of Section 14, and for council with the Human Rights Commission together to make final decisions on these and any other matters related to Section 14. This will also give the public, as some people requested, an opportunity to weigh in, and well more than a month notice, more than the 3 days state law requires on this, and to do the outreach to the public so we make sure we get all that information. I do want to make just a few comments. First of all, to those who say this is cancel culture, we're not canceling what happened. We're not canceling the good Frank Bogart did. We're not canceling the bad Frank Bogart did. This would be canceling, celebrating Frank Bogart as the only person acknowledged with a monument in front of our government building, our city hall. That is not canceling culture. It is taking into account the incredible pain that so many of our residents feel every time they come to City Hall to see him celebrated, given the well-documented history that is included in this. I know the pain it causes me and Councilmember Fote, as we talked about it regularly when we were on council together, and I can only imagine pain it causes to the families that were impacted directly by these actions on Section 14. To celebrate one person who was involved in this atrocity does not belong in front of our city hall that says the city is the people. So I really want to thank Chairman DeHart and the commission and those who are involved in doing this research, including finding, finally, thank you, Chair DeHart, the Interior Department's extensive report on this that we all had a lot trouble finding for many years. You've finally tracked that down, which is well documented. And the Attorney General report, which we have had, which interviewed not just people and got their stories who were impacted, but interviewed the city manager and found out there was not a single record of who was evicted, what happened to their belongings, where they went, not one. And so to think that would happen today, we know it wouldn't, and it shouldn't have happened then. So thank you, Chair, for giving me the time to make those comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Coors. I'd like to make a few comments before we move forward on the draft. Our commission report is based on hundreds and hundreds of documents. The report alone is 309 pages. And we have hundreds of documents that we've sorted through, including the comments that have been made in our community through since 2015, when this discussion has come up on a number of occasions over and over again. The comments that were made today have definitely been considered because they've been made before, and we've included them in our consideration. Many of those comments came in July of 2020, And there's a lot of feedback from the city council's listening session that took place in July 20 of no, July of 2020. So there's a lot of information that's being taken into account. And I would just like to remind everybody, and so we can keep it in the back of our mind, this is the first conversation, the first issue that came before the Human Relations Commission 55 years ago. And we're still talking about Section 14. So let's move forward. We're going to give the other commissioners fair warning. I'll call on you to help us read the resolution. But to start us off, Councilmember Coors is going to do the first 3 paragraphs for us. And to get you prepared, how about Commissioner Andrade? You will read the next 3. All right, Councilmember Coors, you're on.
Thank you, Chair DeHart. So it's a resolution of the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission to remove the monument located at Palm Springs City Hall. Whereas a monument to Frank Bogart, which was installed on the Palm Springs City Hall lawn on March 31st, 1990, to honor and recognize decades of service to the community, is also widely perceived as an offensive and painful public reminder of a legacy of urban renewal that banished the vast majority of people of color from the city limits, and the present realities of systemic racism born out of his mayoral leadership from 1958 and 1966. And whereas, collaborating with local businessmen and attorneys, Mayor Bogart and Palm Springs civic leaders persecuted their lower income constituents and who resided on the land owned by local tribal members. Attempting to dispossess the Indians of their tribal lands and erase any blighted neighborhoods that might degrade the city's resort image, Palm Springs officials developed and implemented a plan that included having non-Indian conservators appointed by a local judge to manage the Indians' land, claiming they were unable to manage it for themselves. The successful implementation of this plan resulted in the removal of the city's people of color and restructured the race and class configuration of the city. And whereas under Frank Bogart's leadership in 1964, the city of Palm Springs approached the conservators appointed by Judge Hilton McCabe with a plan to raise Section 14. The city proposed that the Indians, through their conservators, terminate the leases or rentals of the land. The city would then clear the land using city funds.
Commissioner Andrade.
Okay. Whereas a monument by Raimundo Cobo honoring Frank Bogart currently stands in front of Palm Springs City Hall on city-owned land, and whereas the monument was paid for and erected by private funds and ownership of the monument has passed on to the city, and whereas we acknowledge that members of the local Black community opposed the statue at the time it was installed and their voice was not heard by those in power. Many working class Black, Indigenous, and people of color residents of the city of Palm Springs have issued a clear call to move this monument as expeditiously as possible due to the harm it poses as a symbol of the dehumanization and devaluation of their lives.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramaran, can we have you read the next 3 paragraphs?
Whereas the city of Palm Springs recognizes that the legacy of Frank Bogart's mayoral leadership and direct involvement with the horrific raising of Section 14, institutional segregation, and residual systemic racism directly harm public safety and public health. And whereas, toward the end of 1965 and his tenure in 1966, the city demolished about 200 dwellings in a blighted part of town owned by members of the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians. Bogart's strong advocacy for the Section 14 redevelopment effort, which displaced many working class Black, Indigenous, and people of color families, provoked an investigation by the State Attorney General's office. The probe resulted in a blistering report that said the city's actions were a, quote, classic study in civic disregard for the rights and feelings of minority citizens, and
one more.
Whereas the Department of Justice Los Angeles Attorney General on May 31st, 1968 charged, quote, "There is evidence of unusual cooperation between developers, the Indian conservators, and the city of Palm Springs in the demolition of Section 14, end quote. The report concluded with the declaration that when homes were destroyed, residents of Section 14 were victims of a city-engineered Holocaust, end quote. And
Thank you. Uh, Representative Cash, can I have you read the next two paragraphs?
Whereas, defending the city's actions, Bogart said, they were poor blacks. He added, they began to come from Texas or wherever and settled in the Section 14 Indian land, where they could live rent-free. Some of the hotels in the center of town thought this was a bad image to the center of Palm Springs, and whereas while he was leading the Section 14 demolition, profiting as a conservator and championing development in Palm Springs, Frank Bogart incorporated Cal A. Nev as a California corporation for real estate development in Arizona, California, and Nevada. There is an appearance of conflict of interest when, as mayor, he crafted a multi-million-dollar real estate transaction with another tribe. On November 10, 1962, as president of Cal A. Nev, he signed to $21 million resort development, 75-year lease for 13,000 acres of Mojave Indian land on the Colorado River. And whereas after the Equalization Act and the Indian Leasing Act became law in 1959 and allowed 99-year leases in Palm Springs, city and tribal leaders then canceled the month-to-month leases of many of the residents, including hundreds of Blacks and Latinos, and condemned their homes. About 200 structures were demolished and burned. With no city plan for relocation, the displaced residents were forced to disperse to the north part of town. Veterans tracked on the eastern edge of the city, Banning, Beaumont, West Garnet, San Bernardino, Riverside, and other cities. The 1968 investigation by the State Attorney General's office said city crews acted without observing proper eviction procedures. And
Commissioner Shepard, can I have you do the next two?
Whereas while Frank Bogart was mayor of Palm Springs, he improperly benefited by serving as a conservator for tribal member-owned tribal land and was found to have overcharged and illegally charged the allotee for services. The United States Secretary of Interior investigation, May 26, 1968, found that during his mayoral term, Frank Bogart was found guilty of fee splitting between a broker and a conservator, splitting by or with fiduciaries. This, as well as other similar instances, is improper under California law. And whereas the Frank Bogart Monument, which stands in front of City Hall, is a hurtful symbol of systemic racism, and the significance of being the only monument at City Hall makes this symbolism even more hurtful. The current Palm Springs City Council has declared systemic racism a public health crisis, and the city has authority over public property to relocate the Frank Bogart Monument. And whereas the city of Palm Springs is committed to promoting racial equity and justice and desire to advance the social equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, and fairness, and to work to address and undo systemic racism and its continuing impacts. And
Commissioner Flood, can you close this out, please?
And whereas with the understanding that good and just actions of an individual can't be considered apart from actions of racism, segregation, and terror brought on a community. The city of Palm Springs desires to remove the Frank Bogart Monument from in front of City Hall. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the undersigned members of the Palm Springs City Council, order the immediate removal of the Frank Bogart Monument located in front of Palm Springs City Hall. Said removal is to be completed within 90 days from the date of full adoption of this resolution.
All right, thank you very much. And just as a precursor to conversation, this is just a draft resolution that would be a recommendation to City Council if it is endorsed today at the Human Rights Commission meeting. So we are open for discussion. Commissioners, anybody have discussion on the item? Commissioner Shepherd, I'll let you go first.
I'd just like to state my support of the resolution for the record. I appreciate the resolution. I feel it's a little bit too little, too late, but it is a good first step in the direction of resolving some of the pain that the decisions made during Section 14 caused. So I just wanted to, again, state for the record my wholehearted endorsement of the resolution.
Thank you. How about Commissioner Ramaran? We have you go next.
Thank you, Chair DeHart. Thank you, Commissioner Shepherd. I fully agree. I would push this forward as well, and I think the language of this resolution is very strong. My family has been in Veterans Track since the 60s. I'm glad to hear about the context that's put in there as well, that we know the history of the different neighborhoods that were formed in the city because of what had happened in the 60s. And it's really important, that we really find, I think this document is very much a level of how we're going to build upon our moral compass. We have a social responsibility to our communities, especially those who have been affected for so many decades. And I think this is we're at a moment of reckoning. The city is at a real moment of reckoning. I think we've seen that. We've been part of a lot of discussions around racial and social equity. And I think this is a great document, and I applaud the authors of this. Thank you.
Commissioner Andrade, how about we have you go next?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I don't think there's any denying the harm that was done with the handling of Section 14. That's a given. But the issue of whether to keep or remove a statue seems to have paled a little bit for me with the language in the resolution. I feel that a lot of the blame is unsubstantiated, as some of our speakers have said. I think some of the data presented as facts is uncorroborated. And I feel that there's a one-sided judgment of character and motivation. And is that as much of a violation of Mr. Bogart's human rights as it is an attempt to correct another situation? So those are my thoughts. I'd like to see the resolution reworked in a way that is less judgmental, more factual, less anecdotal. And I'm thinking that the people, again, that spoke earlier both ways need to be heard before we actually vote on something as being fact. Okay.
Excellent. Commissioner Flood?
Well, I fully support this resolution, although it's in draft. I think just as a personal aside, I moved here 9 years ago, and I tried to get in touch. I spoke to a lot of the African-American people who lived here, and of course, the population is very low. But one of the things several of them pointed out to me was that statue. And I was born and raised in Virginia. Some of them said that to me, like, well, like the Confederate flag has a meaning that we don't like. And so I think in order to live up to our mission statement as the Human Rights Commission, we need to support the resolution. Thank you.
Vice Chair Chappelle.
Yes, hi. I too am I in agreement to have the statue relocated. I do believe that it is important to be teachers of atrocities that have happened. I do understand that there are two sides to every story, but I have had the opportunity to work and be friends with people who had endured what that decision did to their families. And I also fully understand our responsibility here on the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission, and that it is a very careful walk because we are here to represent everybody from every culture, from every walk that lives here. And we have to be sensitive, but we also have to teach so that those types of atrocities don't occur again to anybody, because they could.
And I'm sorry, Representative Cash, I should have called on you before Vice Chair. Please make any comments you might have.
I'm also in support of the resolution, and I think it's kind of preposterous how people would think that removing this statue is trying to, censor anybody or remove history. I just feel like it would be more so not celebrating, awful actions than trying to erase history or anything like that.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And thank you, for all the comments from the commissioners. In my thoughts are, the discussion is really about a person's leadership and the ability that individual had to stop the atrocities that were happening and to make a difference in the lives of hundreds of families that were residents, that were tax-paying members of our community, that were the working class of our community, and the backbone. The leadership had the ability to not just stay the demolition 6 months, but to stop the demolition until housing was provided and relocation assistance a plan was well thought out and instituted for all individuals to take part, not just the white residents, not just the Mexican residents, but all residents to be able to have that assistance and support. So the development of downtown, which was a driving factor of the cleaning of Section 14, could go forward. And we certainly do acknowledge, and we need to acknowledge the incredible good that Frank Bogart did in his many years of life in Palm Springs. We're talking about a very short time span when he served his first 2 terms as mayor of the city, and we're not talking about 99 years of his life. And the monument should recognize an individual and his contributions to the community. It just shouldn't be the only monument in front of City Hall. And I fully endorse the thought of relocating the monument to another place in the city, another place of honor, that we can tell both sides of the story, has been discussed tonight. And maybe there's a large plaque is installed that tells both sides of the story, and in a way that individuals who spoke today and others who've commented in the past would agree on. So that history can be told in a positive fashion or truthful fashion that everybody agrees to. So Commissioner Ramaran, I see your hand up. Is that from previous?
Actually, it was just, is this where we can discuss? I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chair DeHart. I apologize.
We are in discussion.
I didn't mean to cut off where you were with your flow.
No, I'm done.
Thank you, Chair. And and this is one thing, we can talk about the removal of the sculpture itself, but we have to also realize as a body that we could talk about both sides of the story, but what the reality is that statue has been there telling one story so this whole time. So we can't just say okay, let's talk about both stories, but the reality is the suppression of one side this whole time. So I want to find a way to really reconcile that part, because it's not about just telling both stories, because this is actually a longer conversation that deals with the history of how the formation, where we're at here. Why are we here in this place known as Sakhi, now Palm Springs? Why? There's a lot of discussions around that I think this is really much part of. I'm a student of art history too, so like I actually like to be able to speak about art history too, and its relationship to sort of building monuments as well. And I think this ordinance very much speaks in alignment with where we're going. This is where we talk about community reparations on so many levels, that we do speak about the trauma that art can have on folks. This is real. This is not trauma that someone just had today. It's generational trauma, and we've had a number of families that were totally not given the opportunity to build that generational wealth, that over this time period when they were displaced. So there really needs to be a larger conversation. It's not just about saying we have both sides of the story, but I totally endorse this ordinance as it's written right now. But I believe it's a larger systemic discussion, which is definitely addressed in this ordinance. And I appreciate the resolution, and I appreciate that language, because I think it really needs to be discussed, that this is about structural racism. This is about white supremacy and its role in the building of this city. So I believe we're on the real right track. I appreciate this. This is really an exciting moment, to be honest. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Chair DeHart, you mentioned earlier that 1966 was the first time that this matter was brought before a city commission.
Yes.
And can you tell me what the actual matter was? Were they asking for this to stop? What was the request of whoever brought forward the matter?
So by the time it came forward to the Human Relations Commission in 1966, the clearing had already occurred. So the conversation was about, what was done to people that were forced off their property. What were the truths at that time, and how were citizens in our community disregarded? So that was the focus of the conversation, because all the clearing and the demolition had already occurred.
Okay. So there was no actual request for anything to happen. They just wanted clarification, or?
I don't know what the continued conversation was with the Human Relations Commission. The documentation that we do have clearly documents the conversation and the fact that this was, was widely covered in the media. The first action of discussion for the commission when it assembled in August of '66.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if we have no further conversation or comments, discussion, we will move forward to the motion on the floor. And the motion on the floor is
Supposed to make it harder for police to identify them. To identify.
To the motion is to bring out of committee and approve the resolution draft as presented today to the full Human Rights Commission and forward the proposed resolution to City Council with our Human Rights Commission's full endorsement. All in favor of passing the resolution as presented?
Aye.
4, 5, oppose. So any opposition? I think that takes everybody. So Jay, that was 5 in favor, Commissioner Andrade oppose. So the motion carries. We will send our draft forward to the City Council. And as Councilmember Coors mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this conversation will continue at the special meeting that right now is scheduled with City Council on May 20. We will discuss later on in the agenda, making it a joint session with the Human Rights Commission. And the conversation will continue. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, can you clarify the maker of the second motion, please?
Commissioner Flood.
Flood, thank you.
The original, it came out of committee, so that was the original.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And a lot of really good input and conversation, not just from the commission, but from folks that were participating online, the chat room and public comment. We appreciate everybody's input there. Next up is item 7AB, recognition of World Health Day. April 7th of each year marks the celebration of World Health Day from its inception at the first Health Assembly in 1948 at the UN. And since taking effect in 1950, the celebration has aimed to create awareness of a specific health theme to highlight a priority area of concern for the World Health Organization. World Health Day's message is simple: giving people access to healthcare without the prospect of financial hardship. This is regardless of where they're from. They could be in Africa, Asia, South America, or the United States. What matters to the World Health Organization, the group behind it, is that there's health for all. The Human Rights Commission highlights the work of all those working in healthcare and in the health field in Palm Springs, and we ask that we all come together and celebrate this workforce as one of the most valuable resources around the world. Next item, updates from committees. And actually, I'm first up with the Palm Springs Police Department Outreach Committee. The update we have out of the Outreach Committee is there were 2 incidences recorded for March. One was on March 9 at Eisenhower Medical Center, and there was a report with an assault of a deadly weapon. Officers responded to the investigation, and after conversations back and forth with the patient and a visitor, a technician went and found the visitor who was sitting in her car at the time. And as the technician approached the visitor who was in their car, the visitor attempted to run over the technician. The individual made derogatory comments about the technician's race during the act, and the victim had refused prosecution in this incident. The other incident that was reported was on the following day, March 10th. The police department was, our officers were dispatched to the police department to meet with a party who was reporting on an ongoing hate incident from the 600 block of Cottonwood. Officers responded, met with the reporting party, and determined that the reporting party actually works as a manager at one of the complexes. It was revealed that a tenant at a location had been sending unsolicited text messages to the manager in which the tenant made derogatory statements about the manager's race, period. The reporting party declined prosecution and is working with the property owner to evict the tenant and obtain a restraining order. So that's what we have for hate crimes report update for March. And next up, we've got item B, Commissioner Ramaran on the calendar.
Thank you, Chair DeHart. Some highlights for our calendar this month in terms of UN observations, for instance, were April 2nd, World Autism Awareness Day. April 7th was the United Nations World Health Day, as we've noted. April 22nd is Earth Day. April 28th is World Day for Safety and Health at Work. I also want to stress that President Biden proclaimed April 4th through April 11th, 2021, a week of observance of the Days of Remembrance of Victims of the Holocaust, and called upon the people of the United States to pause to remember victims and survivors of the Holocaust. The United States Congress established Days of Remembrance as the nation's annual commemoration of the Holocaust. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum is responsible for leading the nation in observing Days of Remembrance and for encouraging observances throughout the United States. This year, we commemorated Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, on April 8th, 2021, and the museum held a virtual ceremony featuring remarks by the Secretary of State, Anthony J. Blinken, who spoke on the importance of Holocaust remembrance and the personal impact of his family's experience. This is an observance you could watch online at state.gov. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is also in April. It is an annual campaign to raise public awareness about sexual assault and educate communities and individuals on how to prevent sexual violence. I wanted to highlight one item. I've been very happy that Denise Goolsby with 1PS has been forwarding me a lot of calendar items, and I wanted to highlight one. The next 1PS Talk of the Town event will feature Kate Anderson, the Director of Public Relations for the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians. Ms. Anderson is an enrolled tribal member of Citizen Potawatomi Nation, a federally recognized tribe with a reservation in Shawnee, Oklahoma. She has had 3 decades of experience in journalism, photography, public relations, marketing, and film. So I definitely encourage folks. Palm Springs has been home to the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians since time immemorial. Learn about the tribe's history, culture, and modern times, as well as the tribe's economic impact on the community through new development, cultural tourism, and philanthropy. That's going to be happening on Tuesday, April 20th at 5:30 p.m. And there's a Zoom link. I think folks can get that. I could send it to you as well. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't believe we've got any reports out of Main Street Finance or 1PS. So we'll move to Cultural Affairs Committee, Desert Highlands Gateway Estates. Any update from that committee?
I have nothing at this time.
I would just like to, I don't know if we formally made it official, but Commissioner Shepard is added to this committee as one of our representatives. Commissioner Flood, you're still up with updates on veterans issues.
Yeah, I have nothing at all on that right now either. Keep monitoring things from the VA, but I didn't find anything that was pertinent for this discussion.
When are they bringing Taco Tuesdays back?
They're trying to do it now. The American Legion is open according to the status we're in now. COVID status.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Youth Education Affairs Committee, and we have Student Representative Cash and Vice Chair Chappelle for that update.
Yes, so student rep Cash and I were provided an application from Lily Hanner, who is participating on our call this evening. Lily is a resident of Palm Springs. Springs. She is interested in participating in the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. She is a member of her GSA and is a youth for equality. She is working to ensure the human rights of all groups. And she is she's a problem solver who has graphic arts talents. Student Commissioner Cash and I do believe that she would be a good fit as a student rep on our commission. So we would like to request the consideration of having Lily join our commission.
Okay, thank you. So that's, we have that motion out of committee from Vice Chair Chappell. Do we have a second on that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Shepherd. All in favor? Who am I missing?
Oh, I guess I should
Okay.
put up a hand too.
Unanimous there. Lily, do you have, would you like to share with us why you want to be on the Human Rights Commission?
To be honest, when I filled out my application, I filled that out about a year ago. So I was at a different school at the time because I just got into high school. So just a few comments of what my application was at the time. At the time, I was in my school's GSA program. I still technically do participate in that program when I feel needed to be within those meetings. But since that was a past school of mine, I don't participate like now. Other than that, I heard of, I was super, I don't know how to put on spot here. But when I I'm not ready to speak out loud. So basically I came to the realization that I was a part of the LGBTQ community in about the 6th grade. And from then I wanted to educate myself and push the narrative forward that people like me or other people like my friends and my family are just as normal as any straight person or you know, just anyone here, especially in our town, which is very open-minded about things like that. But there are obviously people who still aren't, people that I personally know or have come into contact to within my life. And I felt that when I was presented the opportunity or pushed to apply for a position here by Vice Chair Chappelle, who is a close friend of my family's, I decided that it would be a good opportunity for me and a place where I could make a difference, even though personally I have never felt like I could, being as young as I am. So I thought that this, of all places, somewhere where I don't really ever want to leave, besides for obviously education, I thought that if I was going to want to put my foot in the door and to push a more open-minded community and mindset on our community as a whole, that this would be the best place that I could do that. And I decided to take my shot. So here I am.
Very good. And I can vouch that Lily was not asked to prepare comments for today, but you did a fine job and thank you. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor to accept Lily Hanner as our second student representative for the Human Rights Commission. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Ayes across the board, Jay. Motion passes unanimously.
So,
Well,
Chair, I will get in touch with Lily as I work with Ella, and I'll get them together and virtually and go over the human rights procedures that occur.
all right, thank you for doing that. And I just would like to bring some clarification to something Lily said, that Vice Chair Chappelle is a good member of the family. For those listening, Vice Chair had no idea that Lily's application had come forward. I actually brought the application forward from Council Member Woods and Councilmember Hotem Littleton, who had the application through the formal application process. So again, welcome, Lily. We look forward to having you be a part of the commission. Next up, any updates from the Mediation Committee?
Yes, I do have an update. Commissioners Ramron and Flood and myself, we finished our formal classroom curriculum about a week ago, I guess, or close to 2 weeks ago now. We submitted our final exams. I'll let them tell you about their experience. At this point, we can receive a certificate of completion, or we can move on toward the state mediator certification. You have a choice there, which you'd like to do. And if you go that far, you will be completing a series of courtroom observations, assigned courtroom observations, and mediations. And then you'll also need to, we will also need to conduct a series of co-mediations where we're actually co-mediating with another state certified mediator. So that's where we're at right now. Personally, I plan on moving forward. Part of the issue is going to be when the courts are back in session, because we won't be able to do our observations until that time. But the County of Riverside will keep us posted as to when they return to session. So I'd like to have both Commissioner Ramron and Commissioner Flood talk about their experience as well, if that's okay.
Yes, and that's great news, and congratulations for everyone making it to this point. So yeah, Commissioner Ramaran or Flood, you have anything you'd like to share on mediation?
I think, go ahead.
Commissioner Flood.
I think Commissioner Andrade covered mostly everything. I too plan to go ahead with the next part of the program. I found the classroom, so to speak, work was quite intense and very interesting, and I got a lot out of it. And I just feel personally I would like to continue to see what it brings.
Same here. We got this wonderful book, the Community Action Partnership. You know, we got some nice swag. But I want to thank Dr. Yant and Professor Edmondson and Olga Sanchez at Community Action Partnership. It was great. I know that Commissioner Andrade totally covered it. I apologize about that, but I'm definitely gonna look forward to also continuing and getting certified. I think this is really, really exciting. And I know that I realized that one of the new incoming commissioners is also a mediator. So I think that's really exciting to see.
Well, don't steal their thunder before they get here. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that update, and we appreciate everybody taking the time to go through that training. And for those that are continuing, that is really good news. So good luck to you all. Next up, we have item B, committee assignments, and coming out of committee is a report back on the clean indoor air health protection draft ordinance that was a collaboration with the Sustainability Commission. And Commissioner Ramaran, you are the point on that. Would you like to give us an update?
Sure, I'll give a quick update. I also want to welcome Lily Hanner to the commission. As a gay kid growing up through the Palm Springs Unified School District, it was tough, and there was a lot of times you felt really alone. So I'm so excited to have you coming on board. It's so inspiring, personally, and I can't wait to share stories.
Excellent.
So I'm a product.
You can sing her praise on item D when we have commissioner and staff comments. So the update on the ordinance.
I have the, I believe everyone should have received the attachment and let me get this out here. Sorry about that. But the main thing is I've been in contact with Commissioner Carl Baker through sustainability, and this is where the draft is currently. So you'll see the red line information sort of changes that are suggested for now. It hasn't gone forward yet to City Council, as that's why it's coming back to us. So that's the main update. I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to read it. We don't have a strict timeline in terms of like making sure it gets back to sustainability, but I would love to get more feedback from the commission. And if there's anything in particular, I know that we had one public comment that was forwarded to us earlier before our meeting today, so I'll definitely read that. But that's the quick update from the discussion with the ordinance. Right now, it did not pass clearly to City Council yet, but it's back to us. It's back to the drawing board, right? So like I want to make sure that we have the right language that is in alignment with our Human Rights Commission focus.
So what's the action expected from us now?
We have to read it and then provide any comment, like just as we did last year with some of the other documents that we worked on. It would be great to get any notes, and then we could, if there are any particular notes, I could compile them, and then we could get them to Carl Baker, our commissioner in sustainability.
Okay. Do we have somebody from sustainability on the call? No? Okay, so are there any immediate questions from the commission on the ordinance? Commissioner Ramaran, I have a question on, have the stakeholders been invited to speak to this resolution that's being considered? Like the restaurant and bar owners, the downtown merchants. It's been so long since this started. I don't remember what conversations have taken place. I know we weren't involved in inviting folks to the table to share their thoughts and opinions, but has sustainability done that?
I don't have that information in terms of sustainability, but I could find out. That's a very good question. And as the one comment that did come in, it does speak about our stakeholders in our city. So I appreciate that. I will follow up with that.
Okay. And then, so next step, is there a timeline on when these comments are to come back? Are we going to address the comments in the April meeting, and then you're going to compile them and work with sustainability on our input?
That would work because it would be in alignment with our calendar as well. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. That's great progress to see this coming forward. I'm not sure how long it's really it's been worked on, but I know it's been a long time. So nice to see this.
And I appreciate that, Chair, because I think because it's new to me as well. So I think this is a really great opportunity to really provide a lot of input from both commissions and as you said, stakeholders. There are real issues related to civil liberties that are addressed in the ordinance. If everyone could spend the time reading it.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to skip item BB, and I apologize to the chief. We could have moved you up earlier. Are you speaking on the homelessness update?
I am.
I'm looking at you during this entire meeting and I say, oh, what, isn't this great? The chief is joining us today. And now I'm looking at the agenda item and I realize why you're here. So I'm sorry that I didn't realize that earlier. We could have moved this forward. But thank you for being part of our meeting. And we appreciate getting an update from you on the homelessness
Sure. Thanks for having me. And no need to be sorry. Actually, I kind of enjoyed this overall meeting so far. It's been a long time since I presented in front of the entire commission, and I see some things have not changed in regards to the depth that you all put into your work. So I thank you all for your continued efforts on this commission. As it relates to homelessness, that continues to be a hurdle for the entire city of Palm Springs, and more specifically, the resources that we are devoting to this effort. The Quality Inn in the downtown area of Palm Springs has been a hot topic. That was a designated hotel by the county for Project Roomkey. That has been brought up in the past. We've reached out to the county, have had ongoing communication with the county to help adjust some of these locations. I'm glad to report that they acted fairly quickly in relocating all of their clients from the Quality Inn and shifting them over to other designated Palm Springs hotels within our jurisdiction. It simply was not a good location. It's too close to downtown. We have a different audience, obviously being a tremendous resort destination. We have a different audience every 72, 96 hours that tend to give a lot of cash money to the homeless. So that became a location where there was a lot of hanging around, resulted in some drug dealing on site, in which we had to activate a drug task force to go deal with that drug dealer. So the good news, it's stopped. There's no more clients at that location. However, we still continue to get a lot of hanging around that property, and it's fairly significant to include the Barristo Park just east of that hotel. That appears to be one of the hottest locations as of right now. We do have spot checks nightly, at least 3 times every night, where we move the homeless out of the park because there's curfew ordinance where they can't be at the park. Anybody can't be at the park actually between 10 p.m. and I believe 6 or 7 in the morning. So they just relocate to other close areas and then reposition once the park is open. So that is what we're dealing with right now. We're trying our best to get these people some help, but simply some people just simply do not want help. So our focus is on that park right now to try to get it in a position where kids can actually enjoy it again. Now I'll open up to any questions anybody may have.
Mr. Chair, I would just add, this is an item the commission requested an update on homelessness. So if Chief Reyes has provided input for you, that's great. I'm also happy to help try and answer questions on the efforts that the city has been engaged in to assist individuals that are suffering from homelessness.
I'm not sure who brought this forward, but is there any other discussion or questions for the chief or Jay? Chief, we appreciate it. Thank you for providing the update, and we appreciate
I
again.
was going to ask a question just real quick. I know we're running late. There's a meeting on the 23rd that Well in the Desert is hosting, I believe, and maybe even Martha's on some new proposed housing. Are you familiar with that?
I am personally not familiar with that meeting that's scheduled. Jay may be, but I will comment that, as I stated earlier, the communication with the county has increased. It's much more steady. In fact, Jay, a couple council members, our new city manager, and a couple other county employees did a tour today, so everybody can see firsthand of some of the areas that are impacted throughout our city. So I think everybody on that tour today has a greater appreciation and understanding of the homelessness and the impacts that our city is facing.
Commissioner Andrade, Hot Purple Energy will be hosting a display of pallet homes on the 23rd. I believe that begins at 4:30 p.m. This is one possible option for providing housing at an affordable cost for homeless individuals.
Correct. That's the one I was referring to. I wasn't sure if it was, something that the city was involved in or not. But thank you.
I have a question for Chief Reyes. Years back, we had
How do we?
subscription to Spot Crime, and I'm wondering if we can bring that back so that citizenry can be more informed on more or less a daily basis of crime incidents in the Palm Springs area. It would be a great gift for the Palm Springs Police Department to subscribe to that.
That program is actually very much outdated. We actually provide information in almost real time now to the media and to our community, in which it refreshes every so many seconds. You can see what's going on throughout the city with the Hunter block and the type of crime. So I will see to it that an email gets over to your chair to share where that's actually posted on websites, so you can share that with your membership.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Coors, I see your hand is raised. Is it to comment on the homelessness subject?
Yes, if I could, and thank you, Chief. I thought our tour with Supervisor Perez was really helpful today, so he firsthand knew when we were having discussions with him. The demonstration on the 23rd is from Well in the Desert and Martha's Village. There are also a number of other projects being considered, including we are in the process of seeking the new community project grants from the federal government. Congressman Ruiz can recommend 10, of which then will go to the committee to buy the boxing club and the land next to it for a project. And we also, and we looked at that today. And we also went to the Gene Autry property, which is about 5 acres for a possible affordable housing with wraparound services and potentially navigation center there. So there are a number of projects going forward, and we're happy to keep the commission updated on those if that would be helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions while we have the chief? No? Okay. Well, we appreciate that. And thanks again, Chief. And Councilmember Coors, thank you for sharing a little more information with us. Let's see. Go back to committee assignments. Commissioner Ramaran, any update on the street naming? And you're on that committee with somebody else. Who else is on that committee? Commissioner Shepard. I'm sorry, I think I was talking over you.
No, not at all. I've reached out to Commissioner Shepard as well, as I've been in discussion with Jay Verada too. I want to thank Jay for guiding me through some of my questions related to how our updates or our committees work as well. But we will be following up. It's very new, so I appreciate everyone. And if anyone else would like to be in the discussion around street naming, renaming in the city of Palm Springs, please let us know. It's an opportunity to look at, planning too on a level of being a human rights commissioner.
Okay, thank you. It was brought to my attention that we needed another resolution coming out of our first item today, 7AA, and that's acceptance of the 309-page report with the pending or for review and adoption with a 28 business day review for the commission. So I'll entertain a motion that we accept the report with the 28 business day review, and then it will be voted on at the commission for acceptance. Do we have a motion to accept that report for review?
So moved.
Commissioner Andrade first and second. Commissioner Shepherd, second on the motion. Any question or discussion on this motion? All right, no discussion. All in favor of accepting the report as presented for a 28 business day review, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vice Chair Chappelle, I didn't see you. Yes, Jay, it's unanimous.
Aye.
Acceptance for a 28 business day review. So that's excellent. Another item is prior to our comments, Councilmember Coors at the beginning of the meeting shared an invitation to the commission to join City Council in a joint meeting at 5:30 on May 20 with the focus topic of section 14. Do we have, is there consensus that we would like to cancel our originally scheduled May 10 meeting and in favor of the May 20 special meeting with City Council? Nod your heads up and down. I'm seeing thumbs up, nods. Beautiful. Okay. Jay, then we've got consensus on that for the special meeting. And thank you, Councilmember Coors, for extending the invitation to the commission to take part. Next, we've got commissioner updates. We'll go around the table, starting with Commissioner Ramaran, who had a lot of kudos for our new student rep.
I think you all heard it already. So, but I want to, thank you, everyone. This is actually a very exciting meeting, as you can see. I mean, that was the most we've had in our Zoom call. So I think this is really an exciting moment for the history of Palm Springs. So, but welcome, Lily.
Commissioner Shepherd.
Also want to welcome Lily. Tickled to death that you've decided to join us. And Ella, it's good to see you continuing to participate. And Edwin, I haven't responded to your email yet, but I got it. I fully intend to do so and help however I can with the street naming project. And agree that it's a tough subject, but that we covered today, but it's so important. And I'm so glad to see everybody taking a stand. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Flood.
I'd just like to welcome Student Rep Lily also, and I have nothing else at this time.
Student Rep Cash.
I would also like to welcome Lily. I'm very glad to have a co-student representative, and I'm excited to work with her.
Wonderful. Commissioner Andrade?
Ditto. Welcome to Lily. It's so nice to have the young perspective on our city and the issues that are affecting our city. And I agree that it was great to have the attendance that we had today. And it is a tough subject, and it does bear a deep looking at, and not just it's been probably overlooked and not looked at deep enough for a long, long time. So I'm really happy that we're looking deeply at the subject. Thank you.
Vice Chair Chappelle.
Welcome, Lily. Actually, I had not even recognized the application as yours, because I didn't think that you had attended high so welcome, and I do think that this is probably one of the deepest conversations that we have had in a very long time. I think that this is what we continue to look to have, because this is how human rights are ensured, and as I prepare to wind down, I just hope that the mission continues to push forward like this.
Thank you. Jay.
Yes, Mr. Chair. If he's available to say hello, I'd like to introduce you and the commission to our new city manager, Justin Clifton. Also been very patient.
Welcome.
Thank you. I am here, and boy, what a fun meeting to watch. Important, serious, and some somber all at the same time. I just want to say it's great to be in Palm Springs. I come by way most recently of Sedona, Arizona. I managed 2 communities in Colorado before that. I didn't want to go anywhere else when I decided it might be time to think about the next move. It was really Palm Springs and only Palm Springs. And really what excited me, among many things, is I had done some homework and I listened to some of the community conversations that were happening, much like this one. And it really inspired me that I wanted to be part of a community and an organization, a council and a team that had this kind of openness, that had this kind of dialogue, that was this dedicated. So really impressed hearing the commission and the members of the public that participated. And it's just one along a long line of many things that has validated my decision to move to this community. I'll be coming with my wife and 2 kids. They're not here yet. They're still in Arizona helping with some of the transition, but couldn't be more grateful for this opportunity. I'm really proud and look forward to serving. And if you need anything from me, I hope you'll reach out and find me here at City Hall or in these meetings or other venues. I'm eager to serve. So thank you very much.
Rest assured, we'll reach out, and happy honeymoon for the next few months. Then it will hit hard. So
we'll see if I get a few months.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm happy to be here.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Anything else, Jay?
That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And I too, 2 things or several things. I really appreciate the commission's feedback and comments to the resolution today regarding the monument. We will continue having that conversation, on the 20th of May with City Council, and also a big welcome to Lily. We're excited to have you here. So we will, in the next couple months, also introduce our next 2 commissioners, And I would like to congratulate Commissioner Shepard, who has kind of been in limbo for a couple of meetings, but you're official. I don't know if you've been told that. You are official and you've been reappointed. So congratulations and thank you for being a pivotal member of the commission. Next up is agenda items for our next meeting. Do any of the commissioners have items that we need to bring forward? Jay, I made note of the clean indoor air ordinance. We need to bring that back. And I suspect at the meeting of the 20th, we will adopt the report, the monument report. So it can also go to city council. So the indoor air ordinance is not going to be till June, right?
It appears that way.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Ramaran, does that timing still work?
I believe so. As long as we keep the ball rolling, the ball is rolling. So that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. All right, excellent. So if we don't have any other agenda items, Jay, you didn't have any?
I have one, Chair.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I would like, I noticed in last week's city council meeting, there was a discussion around inclusionary housing. And I think since we, as the Human Rights Commission, look at, one of our missions to look at the Fair Employment and Housing Act, I think that might be an interesting discussion for us as a body. I'm not sure, I just wanted to propose that. And I think it'll be kind of nice to see how we as a body, as a commission, would also have a real stance on affordable housing in the city of Palm Springs.
Thanks for bringing that forward. Jay, do you know what currently exists? Is there an affordable housing subcommittee on city council? Or is there a task force in play?
We do have liaisons on the council who provide direction and suggestions in terms of policy for affordable housing.
Okay. So is this something that there's consensus on the commission that at least one of us can explore with the liaisons on how the commission can provide support? Shaking heads. So Commissioner Ramaran, do you want to be the liaison? Jay will let us know who the city council liaison is, and you can carry that conversation forward and see how we might be able to serve city council, on that topic specifically. Okay.
Great, thank you.
The things we learn when we watch the city council meetings, huh? I don't know how they do it. It was midnight or close to it this last Thursday. Okay, I think that's it. There's no other announcements, so we will adjourn. The commission will adjourn to a special meeting on, I don't know what day of the week May 20th is, at 5:30, joint meeting with City Council. Thank you all again. Appreciate it.